our specific category of desktop stereolithography, the category that we created, we're by far the leader, selling 80–90% of the units in that space. In 3D printing more broadly, there's kind of companies on all sides. There's other desktop companies, usually a little bit lower priced or lower end. And then there's the legacy players who are selling kind of $50,000 and up machines. And in different places we compete with all these players. And our unique capability since the beginning has been delivering a printer that for a few $1,000s that you just take out of the box and print and actually gives you good results at a professional level. And that's something that no one else can do today. We have a huge range of customers across many different industries, so it's hard to talk in general about them. The biggest category is around product design and engineering, but that could be everything from like a small product design firm that's prototyping some product for someone, or it could be on the factory floor of a huge company where they're making jigs and fixtures and other kinds of parts that support production. Huge range. You can name almost any big American company that makes something and they've got multiple of our printers. But then after that there's a lot of other segments. So the next biggest category is dental, where now with new dental scanning technology, 3D scanning technology, you can actually replace the impressions that most people have had at the dentist, do that with a scan that's faster and easier, and then directly produce the parts that you might be producing from that impression, whether it's a night guard or a crown, or all kinds of different parts that dentists and dental labs make can be produced with 3D printing. And you can get better results, faster and cheaper. And then I can go on for an hour about all the different ways the printer gets used. So that's one of the challenges of our business, is we have a really wide range of markets and users that we need to figure out where to put our focus, how to cover as many of them as possible. So a big focus in 3D printing today is to move more towards higher volume production. Not just making one of something or a few of something, but making hundreds, thousands, millions. And we definitely have a big focus in that direction. And this builds, typically these users are building on what's already being done with 3D printing. So dental customers that are scaling up and starting to make more and more, or product design and engineering customers who are going from making one of something that's prototyped to 10 to 100. So that's a big focus for our company, to make sure we have solutions for those customers, to make sure that we can produce parts cost effectively enough that it makes sense to produce a lot of them, and to make sure we have the range of capabilities, especially around material properties, that you can make those end-use parts. We have printers in most major consumer electronics companies, Apple and Google and Samsung. We've got printers at all the big automotive companies, aerospace companies, really almost everywhere. But then actually I'm more excited about the range of small hardware development startups that are also using our printers, because those companies are getting the first access to 3D printing that wasn't possible for them before, because we created a new class of product that's the first one that really works for those new innovative companies. One example of a local hardware startup, it's a company called Right Hand Robotics that's developing automation systems for warehouses to pick and pack boxes, and they're developing all kinds of grippers and other hardware like that, and they're able to develop and iterate these parts and even make production parts with our printers in a way that just wasn't possible a few years ago. But yeah, recently we raised a round of investment that included some investors from China, including a fund called Shenzhen Capital. And so one of the big directions for our company is continued expansion internationally. We do sell a significant amount already in many countries outside the US. Actually, more than 50% of our sales is already outside the US. But there's a lot of growth opportunity in Asia, and especially in China. At this point, China is the world's biggest manufacturer, but in a lot of ways, China is behind in adoption of 3D printing compared to the US. So there's a really huge opportunity to grow there. And in addition, we manufacture some of our products there, and we're a company that a lot of our competitive advantage comes from being able to manufacture really new, difficult to manufacture hardware, and China has a lot of the expertise for that. So we're definitely going to have, we have a big relationship with China. We have an office in Shenzhen, and that relationship is going to grow over time. And so that's why having a partnership with Shenzhen Capital is really valuable to make sure we have the local connections and access to the government there that's necessary to be successful in China. In the last year or two, we've had a new focus on working with on kind of enterprise solutions with different big companies to help us actually push the technology forward and not just sell them printers. So the best example of this is partnership with New Balance, which is obviously a big shoe company, and they're interested in actually printing parts of shoes in production, including the midsole, which is kind of the largest, most important part. And that's been amazing to work with them to develop new materials and new capabilities to solve those problems. And we want to build more partnerships like this with other large companies looking to use not just the 3D printing technology that's available today, but what we can bring to the world in the next few years. So MIT, ILP, and STEX 25, I think, is a great way for us to meet some of the high-level people in those companies and build those relationships. One thing that I'm excited to announce is that Jeff Immelt, the former CEO of GE, is actually joining our board. And that's another really big step for us in working more closely with large companies that have a lot of advanced manufacturing expertise like GE, and kind of deepening our partnerships there. So we're really excited to bring him on board.